Hi, my name is Sandy Len. I'm a CPA and have experience in preparing the proof of financial ability to operate. If you're thinking about or you're in the process of obtaining a healthcare license from ACA and want to learn about the proof of financial ability to operate, then this video is right for you. You will learn about 5 common pitfalls to avoid when preparing the proof of financial ability to operate, with a focus on the most important pitfall and deficiency noted by ACA, which is the title of this video: salary too low. Before we start, let me summarize the license process and in particular the proof of financial ability to operate. In a nutshell, the license process usually requires the preparation of an application, payment of varying fees, proof of financial insurance, other insurances, background checks, and the preparation of a proof of financial ability to operate, and more. The ACA website has different rules for each type of healthcare provider. In an attempt to add some humor into this very dry subject, I'm going to go over the fifth common pitfall. It's really not funny, it's actually sad, but it's very simple. The applicant forgets to include the proof of financial ability to operate with the application. Very easy to avoid. If you know about it and you read the instructions, you can avoid it. The matching problem, which is number 4, is basically the schedules in the form don't tie or bounce, and they don't really relate to each other where they are all very much connected. Number 3 is accounts payable or accounts receivable. They are not included in the balance sheet. Generally speaking, most applicants will have or should have accounts payable and accounts receivable. There are some exceptions when you're on a cash basis. For instance, you're only fee for service for private pay, but I sometimes put in a very small receivable because if you're getting paid from a credit card company, there's a 1 or 2 day lag. Number 2 is administrative FTEs are not sufficient. First of all, an FTE is a full-time equivalent. That's a person who works 2,080 hours. So one FTE is one person working 2,080 hours. Sometimes applicants put less than one FTE, and the fraction doesn't make sense in relation to the task. For instance, they may put down, say, 1/10 of an FTE for an administrator, and sometimes administrators, I think more frequently than not, need more than 200 hours to administer their business. And finally, salaries and contractor payments are too low. And that's the number one finding in the subject of this video. Basically, salaries can be paid to either administrative staff or healthcare providers. They are generally the largest expense item in the projection and therefore the most important. So ACA is going to be looking at these items very closely. Contractor payments are generally amounts paid to contractors who by definition are not employees, and these people are providing healthcare services. I'm going to get into in the next slide or two exactly what the too low of salary or contractor payments looks like on the form. These instructions are from the proof of financial ability to operate for both a nurse registry as compared to a home health agency, healthcare clinic, home medical equipment, and many other types of applicants. Let me provide some context. One of the most important assumptions is that the amount of money you intend to pay for your administrative and healthcare employees and or healthcare contractors. It's so important that ACA has provided instructions on what goes into the form, and that's what I'm about to show you below. The amount you pay is based on 2 factors, no different than any other business. The 2 factors are the amount per hour in your county and the number of hours worked. This discussion will center around the rate paid per hour paid to contractors and employees. I just want to show you here on these instructions, very similar, except here this yellow part regarding documentation that's required to be the basis for your assumptions, particularly the rates and what you're paying people in your county. Even though this is for home health agencies and other, it also is applicable to nurse registries. In the next slide, which is coming up, you're going to see the actual form. Take a closer look at the actual Schedule 2 here. What we have here is Schedule 2 contrasted for a nurse registry to a home health agency or healthcare clinic or a home medical equipment provider or other types of providers that require the use of this form. Let's take a quick look at the administration here, and what you can see here is they're looking at FTEs, which we've gone over, but that's full-time equivalents, and they're also looking at the average annual salary and multiplying the FTE times the annual salary to get what the total annual cost is. But ACA will either look at this average annual salary and say it's too low, and they're also going to say that it's too low because the hourly rate paid to this person, the alternate administrator, is too low. They simply divide the $10,000 by the hours worked, since it's a half of an FTE, they're dividing it by 1,040, and they get $9.62. That is way too low. Let's take a look at the independent contractor portion, and that's on the bottom of both of these schedules here. On the independent contractors, they're asking for the hours worked and the cost that you're paying that person per hour. And these rates must not be less than the published minimum rates here in the state of Florida, and particularly have to be in line with what your rate is in the county. Different parts of Florida require different types of payments to contractors and employees depending upon the standard of living. So bear in mind that the annual salary for administrators is asked and the cost per hour is asked. The schedules get complicated and require a specialized approach when owners are providing both healthcare and administrative services. We have two situations. The first situation is the owner is also a healthcare worker and is making a good salary, such as would be paid to a registered nurse, and that person is also working as an administrator. The second situation is where the owner wants to be paid below market rate as a healthcare provider, or wants to work at no cost for free, either as a healthcare provider or as an administrator. People do not work for free. So we need to consider what amount to pay them. But there are some exceptions, as I just mentioned. But generally speaking, and in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, ACA does not let you have administrators working for free or healthcare workers working for free. These two situations are not so infrequent and require special treatment, which is outside the scope of this video. In the last slide, you learned that the salary and contractor information is generally shown in Schedule 2. We also compared the instructions for both a nurse registry to the other type of applicants, such as healthcare clinics, home health agencies, etc. But the question now is, what happens if you use an incorrect laborly rate for either the administrative staff or healthcare professionals? What happens is you will get a comment from ACA in their omission notice under the caption, "Salary is too low." And you will be informed that the amount used is below the minimum wage rates in your county. You will be advised to use the correct amount. When this happens, almost every schedule in the proof of financial ability to operate will change, and you will need to show ACA in the total source of funds, which is part of the proof of funding in Schedule 1, that amount will likely have to increase, and you're going to have to resend revised or new and updated bank statements to support your proof of funding. So it's something you really want to avoid. So taking these steps proactively and using the correct assumptions will save you time later. I hope you found this video helpful and you can see the added value that you get from a business projection. You also see that this presentation focused on the largest cost, and that's labor. I hope you now understand why this is important to you and to ACA. Please feel free to contact me if you need help with preparing the proof of financial ability to operate. And finally, if you found the video helpful, please subscribe and hit the like buttons before you go.